right, welcome. Come one, come all. It's the Beantown podcast. This is Quinn David Furness, and that was not me on the guitar. That was my brother, who we will introduce in 1 second here. I think it was Aerosmith or Def Leppard, but it was a beautiful song. I am joined live in studio, aka my kitchen, coming to you live from 817 St. Paul Street here in beautiful Beantown, by my older brother, the man himself, college graduate Jack Furness. Welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
He's speaking extra loud in his podcast voice. Nice. We are sipping on some drinks, and this was not announced because we didn't know we were going to be doing it until a couple hours ago. We're playing a game of cribbage live on the air, which probably the first podcast to ever play cribbage live on the air. So Jack is going to get the board set up and the cards shuffled for us. We're happy to have you here. What's going on? How are you? Couple things to get out of the way before we jump into the podcast. First and foremost, apologies for the audio quality. So as most of you know, when I do my interviews, it's usually with people, friends, family who are miles and miles away, so we're usually calling them via phone, and we've got a whole system in place, and it sounds good but not great. What we're doing here now, we have two people for one microphone, and rather than sit uncomfortably close to each other for 40 minutes, we've got it in the center of the table, and we're going to do the best we can. You know, the audio quality is a little low, but bear with us because we got a hot game of cribbage coming here. So that's the first thing. The second is listener discretion is advised. Occasionally I'll drop some swear words here and there, and then secondly on that, the podcast is just objectively terrible. So that's that. If the cribbage game goes short, then we have Mancala on standby, and we will just play it by ear quite literally. Did not write anything, did not prepare anything for this podcast, and traveling in and out. So yeah, that's that. Jack Furness, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us. How's your week been going?
So far, so good. Kind of been all over the East Coast this past week. I was up in New York, down in Jersey, Philadelphia. It's been a good week.
That's very good. And you are going on tours of law schools.
That's correct.
It's going to be a good hand. For those of you just tuning in, we are playing cribbage live on the air, and we have just dealt out our first hand. It's going to be real and spectacular for me. Jack, what have been the pros and the cons of your law school visit so far? What have you liked? What have you not liked?
Pros, honestly, have just been, being able to see all these different schools, get a feel for what it might be like to be a student at some of these different places. Only real con for me is just it's been tiring traveling around and all that.
Yeah, so we are going to. I don't have anything that interesting to say right now, so we're just going to score my hand live on air because that's how proud of it I am. So I've got, for those of you playing with us at home, I have a 6, 2 8s, and an ace, which is a solid start in and of itself, and then a 7 was flipped, which is magnificent. So I have 15-2, 15-4, 15-6, 15-8, pair for 10, and 2 rounds of 3 makes 16, which is helpful because I didn't score a single point in play. And Jack, it's your turn.
All right, so we're looking at a 10-Jack Queen with a 5, and that 7's not going to do much for us, but it's not bad. We got 15-2, 15-4, 15-6, and a round of 3 makes 9.
Very good. Not a bad start. Not more than 9. Yeah.
I like that.
And Jack's going for the crib.
All right. Yeah, it's going to work for me. So we got 2 3s and a queen. So again, that's not bad. I'm able to use that 7 to make 15-2.
That's good.
And then 15-4, 15-6, and a pair for 8. Not too shabby.
Good for a crib. Jack's off to a decent start, although mine wasn't bad itself. This might be the sleepiest podcast I've recorded yet. It's about 10 p.m. driven a lot of miles in the past couple of days. Work is crazy, so if you are getting to this podcast and it's 9 a.m. on Monday morning and you're looking for a jolt of energy to get you going, you might want to wait till your afternoon nap, because this is going to be, one, our voices are low because it's late, two, the audio quality is lesser because we're further away from the microphone than I usually am, and we're playing cards and drinking alcohol. So that's how this is going for you. Let's see, so we've been doing our, this is rough, what are your thoughts on segment? We didn't actually ask a new question on Facebook in the middle of the week for debate because I was pretty slogged down with work. So last week we were talking about vaccines, and we wanted to get your thoughts on vaccines. We didn't get a lot of listener feedback through the Facebook page or the Twitter page or really any pages. Or my email. You can always email us. That's beantownpodcast@yahoo.com. That's Beantown, BEANTOWN podcast@yahoo.com. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. So we're just going to move on to the next topic. And I've been thinking about this for a little while now, and I haven't thought of a good topic that I wanted to poise. So we're going to table that for a second. Jack, I'll open it up to your opinions or questions if you have any topics we'd like to talk about. But I did want to give a quick shout out to a potential new subscriber. She's kind of doing her training run. My friend Ashley, if you're listening to this right now, I received some information just a couple minutes ago that you were listening to our podcast in which we discussed the 19th Amendment and the pros and the cons of that. And you didn't seem too enthused about that. But if you like that, there's a lot more where that came from on this podcast. We're always ruffling feathers and feather and ruffles and that sort of thing. So welcome to the podcast. If you're listening right now, we would love to have you continue listening. Jack, as you're scoring, I'll turn it over to you if you have anything you'd like to talk about here. If not, then I'll pull something out of my butt.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and score my hand first. So we're looking at a Jack, Queen, 4-5 ace. So we got some 15 options here. No knobs, unfortunately, but
Solid
it looks like 15-2, 15-4, 15-6, 15-8. Pretty straightforward.
And I have 2 10s, a 4, and an ace, and the 4 is flipped. So a solid showing here. I've got, I think 12, but let's count it up. 15-2, 15-4, 15-6, 15-8, pair for 10, pair for 12. It's a good start over here. Let's see. That's 12. The other thing I should note about this cribbage board that I got for Christmas, that's crap, it's 15-2. 2 points in the crib. This is, I believe, half of the size that we have in our cribbage board at home. So it's the same length, but we're used to just playing down and back at home, whereas this one is set up in a way that you go down and back, and then that's the end. So we can decide if we want to go all the way back when we get down. I think we probably will need to for the sake of time, although we've only made it a third of the way, and we're already 11, 12-ish minutes into the podcast. So we'll play it by ear. I'm not too concerned about winning and losing this game of cribbage. It's more of a show game, kind of like the NBA regular season. You just kind of do it because you're scheduled to play 82 games. So after 2 hands, Quinn leads by a measly 3 pegs. So
Pegs, pretty tight after 2 hands. I was thinking while I'm dealing this next hand, maybe we could talk a little bit about the history of cribbage.
Oh, sure. And,
for those of you who don't know, cribbage is, of course, a peg-based card game.
I played some peg-based games in college, but we'll talk about that on a later podcast.
All right. So cribbage is credited to the English poet, the unfortunately named Sir John Suckling.
Oh, man, we're on a roll.
In the early 17th century. It was originally a derivation of a game called Noddy, also unfortunately named. And cribbage was extremely popular, and as existed virtually unchanged since the 17th century. So it's pretty straightforward. The object of the game is to score 121 points. To be the first to do so, you score for combinations of 15 for pairs, triples, pair royales, runs, flushes, knobs, heels, and so on. It's all pretty self-explanatory. So,
yeah, if you got your penguin Hoyle handy, you can follow along with everything you're doing, or with everything we're doing.
So I prepared a few icebreaker questions. I guess we're kind of past the point of icebreaker, but I guess
25 years past the point.
Well, you're never too old to break the ice. So
put that on a picture. Yeah.
Let's start with an easy one. Who do you like, Jon Voight or Christopher Walken? Cage match.
I'm glad you asked, because I think it's a direct reference to my new hairstyle. So, if
that's what made me think.
If you've been following the podcast, or you've known me since September, that's when I last got a haircut, and my kind of go-to when the hair grows out a little bit is to do the comb over, and not in like a creepy way. It looks fine, but it's gotten to the point now where it's just there's so much volume, and I really don't know how to handle it. So what I've been doing is, because I don't like putting harsh chemicals in my hair of any kind, so I'll get out of the shower and I'll throw a cap on, a cap or a hat, really any sort of head garment works, and it kind of mats it down, and then when I take the hat off, I look like both Jon Voight and Christopher Walken, kind of double the talent sort of deal.
Have you ever seen the movie Holes, Mr. Sir? That's exactly what the hair looks like right now.
Excuse me. Yeah, that's good. So Jon Voight or Christopher Walken, my preference is probably up here. I don't know. That's tough because they're pretty different in what they bring to the table. It's interesting because I know Jon Voight as a younger actor, particularly from Deliverance. He was really good in that. And I really only know Christopher Walken as an older actor, although I was just, Jack, maybe you know about this, Christopher Walken was a real song and dance guy growing up, and there's a great clip of a movie he was in on YouTube. I don't remember what it's called. We can watch it after this, but he's doing this sweet tap dance number, and he's undressing, and it's fun in games, that sort of thing. But Christopher Walken was pretty good as a young guy. And then one of my favorites, they did the Peter Pan live action a couple years ago, I think my sophomore year of college, and Christopher Walken, of course, played Captain Hook. And that was a wild ride. And he does a little tap dance number in that as well, and he took a lot of flack for it, but hey, if anytime Christopher Walken's playing Captain Hook, I'm not gonna complain about that. So before I flip that question back to you, let me score real quick here. So I have a king, 2 4s, and an ace. I had a pretty similar hand formula to start here. So 15-2, 15-4, 15-6, 15-8, and pair for 10. I'm getting lucky so far. I haven't had a hand under double digits, which is nice.
And I'm looking at a double 10 Jack Queen King,
good.
so it's a pair for 2, and 2 runs of 4 makes 10. So.
We step for step. Yeah.
So that question naturally leads to a second question, which is who you like better as Captain Hook, Dustin Hoffman or Christopher Walken?
So I have never seen Hook, believe it or not. I do like Robin Williams. I tried to start it once, and I don't know, I just wasn't quite enthralled by it, which is a shame. Oh, that's a good hand. Because it's John Williams, I believe, who did the score for Hook, and of course John Williams is timeless. But yeah, I've never actually forced myself to sit down and watch Hook, so I would have to take Christopher Walken just based on the fact that I've never actually experienced that role. From Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman was in Star Wars, actually, believe it or not. There's a Seinfeld reference for you. Yeah.
Most people don't know that.
It's a dating loophole for all you single ladies and men out there listening to this podcast. If you're looking for an easy way to get a date, check out that episode on Seinfeld. I don't recall what episode it is or what the title is, but yeah. Oh man, we're burning through this podcast. We're already 17 and a half minutes in, so.
Yeah, so while we were having that little Captain Hook debate, I got a tidy 8 in the crib, and it looks from here like I'm about 5 up on Quinn. Could be 4, could be 5.
when you're on the inside, you go further quicker, and you track and field fan would know that. So it's deceiving in how it looks, but yeah, you're always on the inside, which is not helpful to me. So.
If I had to answer that question, and I was thinking about it more from like a cage match perspective. Who do you want? Who do you want in your corner in the ring? I like Christopher Walken. He's a scrappy guy.
Absolutely.
Punches above his weight for sure. But I'm gonna go with Voight, and the reason is because I think Voight would fight dirty. I'm talking below the belt, fingers in the eye, purple nurples, all that, atomic wedgies. So.
Well, I don't want to do any spoilers, but he does. He takes that guy out with an arrow in Deliverance. It's a pretty gruesome moment. So now, if
Kathy
it was,
Bates?
Yeah, Kathy. Where does that come from? What are you talking about?
I thought Kathy Bates was in Deliverance.
I don't think there's a single female actor in Deliverance. Actually, that I think about it, I'm not sure that there is.
That little girl playing the banjo.
That's not a girl. That's a man, dude. Kathy Bates is in Misery, which you ever read Misery?
No. Is that Stephen King?
Yep. So I went on a Stephen King kick right after I finished working my way through Harry Potter. So I probably talked about this on the podcast back in January, but I read 4 books. I read The Shining, I read The Green Mile, I read Misery, and then I read The Stand, the uncut, unabridged version, which was a behemoth. I think it comes in at about 1,300 pages. So that was
his longest novel, actually. Just a bit longer than It, which is also a behemoth.
That's one that you've read that I haven't. Have you seen either of the It film adaptations?
I haven't. I've come close to watching the new one a couple of times. I really do want to see it. I loved the book, but I have not made time to watch it yet.
So I think what they're doing, because the original film from the 80s, they try to cover everything, and I think it's about a 3-hour movie. I think what they're doing with this new one is they're doing a 2-parter. So I think the first part just deals with
the children.
The children. Is that 1 or 2 points?
That's just might take 2 points.
Okay. And then I think they're planning on making a sequel. I don't know where we are in
13.
All right. 23. Yeah, we're being real vigilant here. They're going to make a sequel dealing with the sort of second half of the book. Jack, have you read any other Stephen King?
I've also read The Shining and The Green Mile and It. And that's all for me for now. But hopefully more to come.
Have you seen the Green Mile film? Because I actually
I saw it a long time ago, and I don't think I caught the whole thing, so a little bit disjointed.
Tom Hanks, Michael Clark Duncan. Did he win? I think he won the Oscar for that role.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people in 2018 don't realize that Sam Rockwell plays a pretty big role in that movie. He's kind of a crazy guy, an instigator a little bit. Sam Rockwell winning Best Supporting Actor for 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri this year. He's fantastic in everything that I've ever seen him in. I'm really...
Have you ever seen Better Living Through Chemistry?
Haven't even heard of that, no.
Don't watch
Tell
it.
me more. It's bad.
Well, yeah, it's just not a well-written movie. Jane Fonda is the narrator, which ruffles all my feathers.
First red flag, yeah. Have you ever seen 7 Psychopaths?
Have not.
It was also Martin McDonagh who did 3 Billboards. But we're coming full circle here because that is Colin Farrell gets first billing, but then it's Sam Rockwell and Christopher Walken, who we were of course just talking about, and then Woody Harrelson plays the antagonist in that one as well. That's a very entertaining film. Very strange, but if you liked 3 Billboards, you would like 7 Psychopaths, because that was also very well done. Those are Martin McDonagh's 2 big films now, but yeah. What about if you had a cage match between Dustin Hoffman, John Voight, and Christopher Walken. Does that change anything for you? Or is Voight still coming out on top?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Young or old?
Prime. Career prime. It's up to you to decide.
I'm
not sure that Christopher Walken's got there yet, to be honest. He's still going.
Oh yeah. Well, I just don't see Hoffman making it through the first 5 minutes. I mean, have you ever seen The Graduate?
Oh man.
Invertebrate.
I actually haven't seen The Graduate. But I know what you mean.
It's a good one. Great soundtrack.
Simon and Garfunkel, or is it
Simon and Garfunkel?
Okay, very good. I only know Mrs. Robinson, but I'm sure that there are other.
Oh yeah, that's they did the whole soundtrack if I remember correctly. Just to catch you up on where things are, pretty similar to last hand. Looks like I'm ahead of Quinn by about 4. Tough to say. Could be 3, could be 4. And we just passed 60, so we are at the halfway mark, and it's a tight one.
Jack's got the crib coming up next though, so he's sitting I wouldn't say comfortably, but he's in a better spot than I am at this point.
That's right.
And my hand is really not good. In fact, we're staring down 3 points right now. So.
And you know, in cribbage terminology, this is known as the mid-game slump, and it just happens. You come around that second bend, the 8s and the 10s dry up, and you run into the 2s and the 3s, and well, we don't have to tell you what that's like.
Yeah, you start the game thinking, wow, this is only going to last 15 minutes, and then half an hour later, you're still working your way in. So we're at 30. I can't go. 31. 7 for me.
17.
Clutch. Yeah, this is a 5-point hand. I've got a 10 Jack Queen, 7, and a 7 was flip. So we're looking at a pair and a run.
Just missed the flush.
Which is not particularly helpful at this stage.
And nothing too interesting over here. It's a 5-5-10 ace with a 7 flip. So we're going to get a couple 15s, 15-2, 15-4, and a pair for 6. That's about all I can do. All right, so I got another question for you. Do you see yourself as more of, well, are you a shaker or a mover?
I've heard that question before, and I don't know what it means. So I'd say I'm a little bit of both. You know, I go for the cop-out answer because you get me at Grand Central, which is the gay nightclub up about 3 blocks, and you better believe I'm doing a little bit of shaking and moving. So I'm shaking my booty and I'm moving away when the guys start hitting on me. So I would say it's more common in my life to be hit on by a man than by a woman, and you know I embrace that. You know, but I don't really know what to do with it. So that's how I feel about that. Jack, what does shaker versus a mover mean?
Well, it's open to interpretation. It's kind of a probing question because it forces you to take that question and put it into any number of contexts. So, for example, when I hear that question, I think of myself in, you know, like a leadership role. How do I manage people? So it's interesting to hear you take that to the gay nightclub context.
That's often where things end up pretty quickly here. Yeah. Jack, have you ever had any crazy escapades in Boys Town, Chicago?
I can't say that I've ever spent a lot of time there. So
You've never been to Boys Town IHOP at 3 a.m. and you're just looking for some pancakes and a good time, aka coffee, and next thing you know it's 6:30 a.m. and you're hitting the red line and you're struggling to stay awake, and next thing you know you're sitting there at Howard and there's a CTA guy in a green jacket poking and prodding you to tell you to get off the train, and it's 6:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning and your roommate's parents are coming over at 7 for breakfast and you promise you'd be there, and you walk all the way from the Howard Red Line station on the border of Evanston back to your apartment in Rogers Park, and you get in at about 6:55, 5 minutes before your roommate's parents come home, and you don't even have time to shower, and you do a quick little throw up in the kitchen and you're ready to go because they brought maple syrup, and you gotta hydrate yourself and you're a little hungover, and then you gotta go to church. I mean, communion, that's a little hair of the dog that bit you. Have you ever had that?
Not that exact experience, but I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, it was one of my dear friends, Aaron. I'm going to tell this story, Aaron. I hope you don't mind. It's how we met. So this was September of 2016, right around the time I was starting grad school. And I was on Tinder, as one often finds himself. And I match with this beautiful girl, Erin. We hit it off. We go on our first date. We got a drink somewhere in Edgewater on Broadway. I don't remember exactly where, but we hit that. Everything was great. Thought we were having a wonderful night. We stay out pretty late. That's the end of the date. Nothing too romantic happens, but it was a really nice time. Next thing you know, boom, she ghosts me. Oh man, I was crushed. I wasn't expecting that. We go probably 2 or 3 months without any sort of contact. But I don't know, for some reason we were friends on Snapchat. And so I was at my parents' house in Oregon that winter break for a week. And I remember I was really drunk off of something, but that's usually the way it is when I'm at my parents' house. And I remember sending a Snapchat to Erin. It was probably like a yo, what's up kind of deal. And she responded back, and we get to texting, and next thing you know, she tells me that, and she's made this public, so it's fine. She's a lesbian, but she was kind of trying some new things out, matching with men on Tinder. So that's why I got ghosted, because I basically turned her off completely to the concept of men. But we ended up striking up a friendship, and our thing is to kind of go out in Boys Town, or we like to go out in Logan Square. We love to hit up Emporium at like 1 a.m. That's always a good time. Play some video games. And just drink a little bit too much. And then our calling card is IHOP Boys Town at about 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning, which is, believe it or not, when they're busiest, because that's when everybody's going to that IHOP. So we do that, and then it's a good time. So yeah. You start, because I dealt. We got off the rails a little bit.
How to follow that.
Well, it's always good when you got some stories for the podcast. 18, so 28, 30, 31.
Yeah, you're getting to see a little bit of cribbage in action. There's nothing quite like the rush. There's nothing like 10.
I feel it. 16.
21.
Oh, you got a damn good hand.
Not too shabby. All right, let me tell you what I'm looking at here. So it's a Jack, Queen, 5. So it's gonna be pair for 2, pair for 4, and then. Oh, you know what? I screwed up. Got to do my 15s first. 15, 2, 15, 4, 15, 6, 15, 8, pair for 10, pair for 12.
Yep. That's that should be the what you needed to bring it home. Although you never know in cribbage. I have curse of the even cards. I have a 2, 6, 8, and an ace. So all I'm getting is a 15-2 off of the 6, 8 ace for 2 points. And anytime you get a queen flipped, you don't expect much from your crib. And 2 points, which is the second time this game I've had 2 points in the crib.
Slump is hitting you.
It's not good, and I'm on the outside going around, so it takes more pegs to get around. That's
centripetal motion.
Yeah, we were talking to my my uncle today, who is a higher up university administrator, and he was asking us
shaker and a mover,
for sure, asking us how much we knew about physics, and we spent about 2 minutes talking about conservation of momentum, all as part of a example of problem-based learning, which I knew about beforehand, and I knew about the same amount afterhand, but it was fun anyways. Anytime you can get my uncle talking about engineering problems, that's where he's happiest. So, yeah, we've been, go ahead, yeah.
I brought one more question.
Yeah.
I really should have led with this because it's more of a softball, but maybe we'll generate some interesting conversation. Chili's or Applebee's?
Oh, that's Chili's. Yeah. No, Chili's has been rated America's #1 restaurant in a private user poll 10 years running. Actually, it's going on 11 now. I'll ask you that question because I actually don't know what your preference is.
Well, Chili's, of course. What if it is a Chili's Express?
Now, is that just like you order to go and you go and there's no seating or what? Because I don't know that.
The menu's a bit more limited, I think.
Okay.
Airport Chili's.
There is a Chili's Express, I believe, in O'Hare. And I've never been there myself because I usually don't eat in the airport unless I'm traveling for work. But yeah, Chili's is they just do it the best. I recall one time, I've been staying with my oldest brother, and we were watching, I believe it was Northwestern versus Nebraska football game on television, and Jack, I think you were at the game. And my brother and I, Chili's had some sort of unlimited soup and salad type of deal for like $5, which is ridiculous. But we went there and we just ordered that, and $5 for each of us, probably $8 tax and tip. We ate soup and salad until the cows came home. So that was pretty enjoyable. I'm always a big fan of unlimited food. Sometimes you get bottomless pancakes at the IHOP, although they put like cement mixer in those things. You can only get through about 3 or 4. And then the Never Ending Pasta Bowl, the pretty popular option at the Olive Garden where my sister works. And I always feel like I don't find out about that until after it's over, and I head into the Olive Garden wanting to get the Never Ending Pasta Bowl, and all of a sudden they're advertising their tour of Florence or something, and it's like $20 for wine samples. So yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. Chili's versus Applebee's. I really don't know Applebee's super well in regards to what differentiates them. I think I'm versus your crib.
Really?
But yeah, you dealt, because I had a crib. It was like a 2-6, or it was a pair of queens. Anyways, my hand is good, but I don't think it's gonna be enough. 10, 5, double Q, 15, 2, 15, 4, 15, 6, 15, 8, pair for 10, pair for 12, which is what I need, but I'm not exactly in control of my own destiny here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
4.
Okay. Yeah,
that brought us even, by the way, until I scored my 4. So I'm up by 4
true.
with. There's a nail in the coffin right there. So.
Oh boy, it's not
looking at a 2, 3, 3, 10 jack. So 15, 2, 15, 4, 15, 6, 15, 8 pair for 10. And that brings me up to
hurts.
103. Remember, 121 is what we're going for. So
it's a palindrome. Always a fun number. It's also a probably not a prime number, although we don't have any confirmation of that, and really there's no way to know. So.
Verdict is still out on prime numbers, whether or not they actually exist.
Yeah, I think 121 is, you can multiply 11 a couple of times to get there. 11 times 11, is that 121? 11 times 10, 110. Yeah, so we can actually confirm that 121 is probably not a prime number. Although,
probably.
Jack, didn't you used to, I recall in high school, you were pretty invested at one point in writing the proof for, was it 1 + 1 = 3 or something?
I got
like
2
that?
+ 2 to equal 5. I actually wrote out the proof, lost it unfortunately, but I did do that. That was right around the time that I was memorizing pi.
So how many digits did you get to, and how many could you currently recite?
I got up to about 250.
That's pretty impressive.
250 digits, and I bet today I could give you 20.
Oh, that's still solid. Yeah. Yeah, I think 3.14159, is that right?
That's right. 3.14159265358979323626433.
Here's the great thing about pi, and I'm not diminishing what you said because I truly believe it's true. You can tell people that you can recite pi for 2 minutes, and if they've had enough alcohol and they're not checking their phones, you just go, and you'll be the life of the party, regardless of whether you know the numbers or not, because I haven't done that myself, but now I have something to do next weekend. So, Jack, in high school, I never had this opportunity, but getting games on your TI 83 or 84 was also a cool thing to do. You ever have any good games on your calculator?
Black Man's a pretty good one. It's basically the goal of the game is you have to get your man to the, I don't know if it's the entrance or the exit, but in order to do that you have to push some blocks around, and it's pretty simple, but it's an interesting problem-solving game. I always really wanted to get Pokemon and I was never able to. I don't think I had the right cable.
Did you have classmates who had Pokemon?
I think I knew one guy who did, but I never saw it in action, and that definitely would have revolutionized
AP calculus.
Yeah, getting a 3 on that physics AP exam was a stretch. So.
Did you get a 3 on physics and AB, or did you get higher in AB?
For calc?
Yeah.
I got a 4 on.
Oh, we got a big shot over here.
Yeah, well.
Deriving and integrating, and talk about a true power rule. Yeah. This guy's the king of calc.
Chicken pot.
13. Yeah, I pulled a solid 23, 28. Pulled a solid 3. We're at 28, right?
Yeah.
That's 31. Solid 3 on both Calc AB, which is the max math that was offered at our high school, and physics. I don't know. We didn't have a good. We had different calculus teachers actually, but I don't think either one of our calc teachers was amazing. And then we had the same physics teacher who was a love-hate relationship type of guy, and I don't know. I don't know if he had a degree in physics. He definitely had a degree in Bible.
I think so. He was a smart guy. Just
not the best teacher. Smart guy, but yeah. Some people really loved him. Some people really didn't like him. I think we were probably both pretty neutral.
That end of the year barbecue though.
So I didn't get to go to that. I probably had to work at the Kmart or something, but I remember that you got to go to that. Yeah.
Briefly, yeah. I think it rained, but. Yeah, what can you do? All right, I'm gonna close things out here with a 9-10 Jack 5. So that's 15-2, 15-4, 15-6, pair 4, 8, and 2 runs of 3 makes 14.
Not quite, buddy. Game's still in play.
15-2.
Oh, well, that's what you scored, but the game's not over yet. If you owe me a 14.
Only 14.
All right, here comes Quinn because he's got a home run hand, he said with
I'm one away.
Side eye. I have an ace 2-4-5, which is kind of a wonky hand, but this is a 15-2 and a pair for 4. Looks like it should be a lot. It's not. I'm going to need a solid 26 in the crib to go out here.
A modest 26.
It's a great hand.
You do score first next.
Yeah, but if you get a point of play, which is probably like upper 90s percentage of happening, it's a good hand. My crib is a 6-7 double-8 with a 5 flipped up. If I was closer, this would be fun. But this is a 15-2, 15-4 pair for 6, 2 runs of 4 hand for 16, which actually gets me close, but not close enough to where I need to be. Does that look right to you? 16.
15-2, 15-4, pair for 6, and 2 runs of 4 makes 14.
You're right. 6 plus 8. Sorry, I was doing 6 plus 10. All right, so we're now not quite as close. This is where I want to be. Wasn't that the song that Hillary Slothauer and Denita from Rock Church?
Sure. So it's originally
Backstreet Boys?
Ringo wrote that song. There's actually a Shirelles song, and then of course the version that we all know is the Four Tops. Which
is any of that
incidentally
information
is,
accurate? I don't actually know.
Well, our dog Wiggly's favorite group is the Four Tops.
Sure. This game worked out pretty perfectly with our timing between the stories and the alcohol and the cribbage being played in between. We're up to 42 minutes now. That's Jackie Robinson's number, baby. And
also Michael Jordan.
Exactly. Yeah, Michael Jordan, his lesser known number. But yeah, we're gonna finish this out. It's gonna end in the next 10 seconds here as we go and play. Yeah, that's every week I do my podcasts, and I think, wow, this was the most rambling. That would be 6 points for me. The most rambling podcast that I've ever had, and each week I find a way to top it. So I think the biggest issue with this one was, one, I didn't really write anything, and I think Jack for carrying most of the conversation with his poignant questions. But two, I think we're both pretty tired, and when you throw a couple sips of bourbon and tequila into that, at least for me, it puts me right to sleep. So
do you ever listen back to your podcast?
I will, and I won't. I probably will not do this tonight unless I just want to fall asleep. So I might do that. I will listen back immediately after, as I'm uploading to YouTube and SoundCloud and iTunes, because there are processes for all of those things. And I'll listen to it, and then from there, I typically won't ever do a full listen of any one particular episode, but they're all there in case I ever do. Everything's on YouTube, and SoundCloud is particularly nice because if you are, let's say you're listening on your phone, you can open up SoundCloud in a browser and then minimize it and do That's other nice. Things.
You
whereas,
can't do that with YouTube.
Yeah, unless you upgrade to YouTube Red or whatever. But iTunes is a similar thing where you can obviously listen to that in the car and stuff, and you download podcasts straight onto your phone, and it doesn't take up too much storage space, and you can use other applications while you're doing that. So that was actually the biggest push, because for those of you who have been with us from the beginning, we started just on YouTube because it's easy, it's free, and then I don't know, about 4 or 5 episodes in, we held our telethon pledge drive, and had a couple people call in, and yeah, that was fun. So we're having a time, and we're constantly changing. For those of you who are keeping score at home, that's a win for Jack and a loss for little brother Q. But we had fun anyways. That was probably only the second or third game of cribbage that I've played in this apartment, because most people know Mancala better, and that's a quicker game, and they want to do that, which is fair because I like Mancala myself. But that's the end of our game, and we're pretty much at the end of our podcast here. We're running a little bit longer than I like to run, but that's okay. We're going to turn it over presidential debate style for Jack for any closing thoughts that he has on the podcast here. Take it away, Jay. That's what Chris Martin from Coldplay says. He always says, "Hey, Jay!" And Jay plays a cool solo, Johnny Buckland. So
Johnny Buckland.
Take it away, Jay, as Chris Martin says.
No big closing thoughts. I guess I just want to say that it's been a privilege and an honor and a blessing to be here on the Beantown podcast. It's really been a lifelong dream of mine.
Yeah.
And it's great to be here in Baltimore, the city of beans.
Yep.
And crab cakes.
Mm-hmm.
And football.
Of course.
And I'm looking forward to the rest of my stay. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, before we go, I do want to mention Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Of course, we've been trying to get corporate sponsorship for many, many weeks now. Jack Link's, I would love to strike up a deal with you guys. I've got your cup here. I've been drinking some tasty beverages out of it the entire night. So if you're interested, please give me an email. It's beantownpodcast@yahoo.com. That's Beantown, BEANTOWN podcast@yahoo.com. We'd love to be in the Jack Link's business. My rates are pretty cheap. It's like a billboard outside Ebbing, Missouri. Not too expensive. Easy for single moms. So that's our podcast for this week. We're not doing any outro music because we've got some neighbors who are a little cranky, and it's a work night, so we're gonna leave it at that. But anyways, if you did make it this far, 47 minutes in, and you didn't fall asleep, I do appreciate you. Thanks. Send us a note, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on SoundCloud and iTunes. That's the end of that. We are going to pack up ship, and we're going to go to bed, and we're going to get a solid 8 hours, and it's going to feel great. So thank you all for listening, and we will check in on you next week.